Anyway, they meet because they're both in the bathroom and he didn't have any toilet paper. And so she gives him some. Okay, how unorthodox. And this is another thing that I think is really crazy about this show. This girl, by the way, has no problem getting boyfriends or getting male attention or having love scenes happening in bathrooms because the guy in the stall next to you needed toilet paper, or later on in the show, her previous boyfriend walks up to her and saves her in a pizza debacle in which she didn't get her slice. And I'm like, nobody's doing that. Nobody is being charming with each other anymore. You're lucky to get a date on an app with a decent individual. Nobody knows how to interact with each other anymore. This is not the 1980s in which people put themselves out there to meet other people. Everyone's hiding behind their phones, and if they do talk to you, it's like, I'll be really cute on text message, but then when I meet you, it's going to be so awkward that you would rather bleed out. I'm already really annoyed with the show because it's trying to be really incisive about modern life, and yet it can't get the basics correct. Okay, you're not meeting anybody in bars looking for toilet paper, and nobody's helping you with your missing slice of pizza. Okay, that's not happening.
Ladies and gentlemen.
Hello, how are you? Welcome to my channel. My name is Dear Denise. Today is Friday. And if I'm 100% honest with you guys, I almost didn't even do a video today because I woke up with some kind of something going on in this eye, and I was like, I can't see. So I just want to let you know that I'm battling sickness, illness, and unhealth. But we have to be together because there's so many things to talk about. And the first story we're going to talk about, I almost thought, well, I don't know if I'll cover that because I know you've already seen this, but we haven't talked about it together. So let's discuss. All right. You guys know about the CEO and his HR girlfriend, right? And how they're having an affair. Let's just discuss. Okay. This loser, Andy Byron, is that his name? Yes, Andy. Andy decided to take his girlfriend, Kristen, to a Coldplay concert. And while they were canoodling and embracing and just loving the moment, what should pan across their faces but the kiss cam? You know, you've never seen such horror. You've never seen such fear. You have never seen two people look more guilty. I mean, a child with their hand in the candy jar couldn't have looked worse. Both of them freeze. She throws her hands to her face. And then she quickly turns her back and he drops to the deck like he's been shot. What kind of reaction is this? Right? And that's what Chris Martin thought. Because as the kiss cam is going over them, he goes, oh, what do we hear? These two either must be having an affair or they're just really shy. Now, sometimes I can call things, and I have a searing brilliance in the way I can call a thing. And that's all just by sheer luck. Because in this instance, if I were Chris Martin, it would not have even occurred to me to say, oh, these two must be having an affair. And when I initially heard him say that, I thought, was he part of this setup? Did someone come to him and say, like, there's going to be these people in these really expensive box seats and they're having an affair? Like, let's expose. Like, I mean, I don't know how anybody would do that, but it just was so true. I mean, that's what was happening. These two, Andy Byron and his date of the night, Kristen Cabot, were engaging in an affair. He had hired her and could not stop gushing about her to everybody. He thought she was brilliant. Meanwhile, he has a wife named Megan at home, and they have 2 kids. Well, the kiss cam goes on these two. You've never seen two people act more guilty. I mean, honestly, I'm wondering how they got on with the affair this long if these two lie so badly. How come their partners hadn't picked up on something wasn't going well? You know what I'm saying? If this is the way you react when the kiss cam comes on you, what do you do when your wife's like, you've been staying away a lot lately. Why are you always on your phone? How come I can't ever see your phone? Why are you always on a work trip? You know? How did he lie through those situations? I have no idea. But anyway, Andy drops to the deck and his girlfriend turns her back and she's clearly whispering to her friend. Her friend's face is bright red. Friend knows what's going on. Friend loves every minute of it. And apparently this guy, Andy, is such a toxic boss that all these ex-coworkers are coming out on X and being like, that jackass got what he deserves, you know. And, you know, studies have gone on to show that if you are going to cheat on your spouse, you're actually a terrible boss. So, I mean, none of us surprised. Another one of those studies where you're like, that needed to be funded. I think we could guess that the guy who cheats on his wife is probably not going to do you real good at work. Anyway, everyone could not stop talking about this story. It's the instant that launched 1,000 memes. We all loved it. We all love these two's demise. And it's because they had it coming to them. Who takes their affair partner out to a public space is over there just embracing them and just like living their best life and thinks they can get away with it. It was the comeuppance we all want, you know? We're just tired. We are a tired group of people who are looking at the Jeffrey Epsteins of the world and the Sean Diddy Combs of the world who are just getting off and are like, well, at least somebody's being held to a standard. So CEO Andy Byron is really having a rough time of it. His wife has taken their surname off of her Facebook, and also I think eventually she took her Facebook down. And people are like, oh, it means she's going to divorce him. Well, I don't think so. I think she just doesn't want people to be looking for her, you know, so she'd take her last name off, you know. There's probably a ton of Byrons, so I don't know. Was it necessary for her to take her name off? I don't know. But anyway, she gets off of Facebook. And, you know, people are cheering her. Yeah, that's right. You know, divorce this son of a bitch. Maybe she should divorce this son of a bitch. I don't know. I think the reason this is just so rich is just their behavior screamed of guilty feelings. And they ought to feel guilty. And I think that for the HR director to be in a relationship with the CEO, I mean, what kinds of chaos is going on at this company? Like, now that we know what kind of boss this guy was, that he and the HR director are, you know, in a full-fledged affair, maybe some other internet sleuths need to go and find out what else is going on at this company that we call Astronomer, right? What else are you guys up to over there? The CEO being in an affair with the HR director just tells me that we have filth probably up one side and down the other in this building. So, I don't know, but it was a fun story. It was definitely a fun story to start today's episode out with. Let's talk about a story that was not quite so fun. A story that went on for 10 episodes. Oh, you guys. Okay, so 2 weeks ago we talked about Lena Dunham. And I brought her up because I was like, why am I seeing Lena Dunham around everywhere? I don't know why I didn't put two and two together. I guess it's because I kept seeing clips of her talking in interviews, but I never saw the part of the clip where she was talking about why we were talking to her, because she's had a hiatus for quite some time. So I was like, I don't know what happened to her. Is she just showing back up on the scene to let us know that she lives in England now? She fled our country, so she go hang out in England for a minute. And while she was there, she met this guy. And she met him, and she's like, you know what? Since I only know how to write about myself and make, you know, semi-autobiographical shows about myself, let's make a new one, right? Because, of course, she had written Girls a long while ago. And it was on HBO, and it was to somewhat rave reviews. A lot of people really loved Girls. But anyway, I mean, it was one of those shows where you sort of watched and enjoyed the characters' deliciously awful lives because they were making poor decisions. And I think it was sort of similar to the CEO moment, where we just like love to watch people have problems because they make dumb choices. And we're like, yes, you know, this is the way the world ought to work. We want to see the consequences to your poor decisions. So Girls kind of fed that like desire to see dumb people doing dumb things get the right consequences. And that show was sort of, I think, clever in the sense that it was at the same time talking about the millennial. It was making fun of the millennial, but also almost excusing the millennial. It was a very confusing show in a lot of sense as far as what is Lena trying to say? Does she seemed to be very aware of the millennial problems, but she didn't, and she made some smart commentary on it, but at the same time, none of the characters seemed to want to be redeemed from those problems. They just wanted to be aware of them and know that about them, but then they thought that sort of gave them an interesting identity to be riddled with so many problems. It was like, I love that I'm such a mess type of behavior. Okay, so she finishes Girls, she goes on hiatus, she spends some time of everybody hating her. So she's driven from our shores, she decides she's going to go to England, and, you know, maybe they don't know that she was fooling around with her sister. She goes over there, she meets a guy, they decide to start dating and write a show together. And the product of those 4.5 years of work is this new show called Too Much on Netflix. An aptly named show, if ever there was one. Now, you guys, if you don't want to know what happens in this show, or you don't want me to talk too much about it, and you're still planning on watching it or whatever, you're going to want to fast forward this, because I may or may not say some things you didn't want to know. There's not really much to spoil. I mean, it is what this show is it's a rom-com that has been extended to 10 episodes. So it's like, you know how like now that we've had so many really good in-depth shows, movies almost don't cut it for us. Like, we watch a movie and you're like, man, that was good, but it felt short. Like, I feel like there's a lot of storylines that I needed to really help me understand where these characters are coming from. So it's like that point of view was finally applied to a movie. So they've taken the rom-com idea and extended it out. So you're getting a show, but you're also getting the roller coaster of the original rom-com storyline, right? Okay. So in this show, we've got this character, Jessica. And she is going to England because she is this workaholic from New York, but she's made a lot of poor decisions with this one guy that she was dating. And he, I wouldn't say cheated on her, but they definitely fell out of love with each other in a really dramatic way. And everywhere she looks, she sees him because they dated for 7 years. So she's like, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. And so her boss is like, hey, well, we have this post that we needed to send somebody to in England. We'd love, you can go and fill it and then you can get out of here. She's like, okay, well. So she goes over to England and she has all of the dumb, like, Pride and Prejudice. She seems to think that she's going to be like, go to England, but they haven't been doing anything new since, I don't know, 1820. She thinks she's going to be living in some sort of pastoral England where she's going to meet her Mr. Darcy or something. All right. Well, I mean, obviously, that's already a storyline that, is going to, disappoint her. But it's like, I don't know. I mean, this is a character that's supposed to be very savvy. All right. She works in media and with all these celebrities, but she doesn't know that when she goes to England, it's probably not going to be like it was in that PBS movie she watched. You know what I'm saying? Anyway. Okay. So she goes and I mean, I'm telling you, this character is whiny AF. Everything is also always about her. She's super cringy. She's super awkward, but not in a charming way. Not in a charming way. This is a person who, at one point, somebody says that she has like Tourette's-like energy. And they're like, I'm not trying to offend you. And you're like, yeah, maybe that's the problem. Like, she's just always popping off, saying crazy things. And I'm just like, there is no way you would have climbed to the echelon that you have. You workaholic, you, with your mouth that just doesn't know how to behave in any scenario. Okay, so keep that in mind because I'm going to give you a specific example in a minute of what I'm talking about and how I just do not believe that this person who is this quote unquote workaholic could be such an absolute mess but have this really great job. I mean, you're just like, I cannot suspend my disbelief any longer on this. But she goes and like the first night she's there, she decides she's going to go out to this bar. And there's this guy singing there at the bar. And at first you're like, I don't know, is he like some kind of queer? Because he's wearing like lipstick and eyeshadow and his nails are painted and his hair's, it's not long or anything, but it's just sort of like, you're just like not really sure like what he's trying to put forward. So the fact that she believes him to be a heterosexual choice is unbelievable to me. But anyway, they meet because they're both in the bathroom and he didn't have any toilet paper. And so she like gives him some. Okay, how unorthodox. And this is another thing that I think is really, really crazy about this show. This girl, by the way, has no problem getting boyfriends or getting male attention. And I would not say that she is stereotypically hot. I'm not saying anything unkind about her. But when I talk to all of my single friends who cannot get a date, and these girls are like super cute in all the stereotypical ways, but they can't get a date. They can't get a decent man to look at them. But we're having love scenes happening in bathrooms because the guy in the stall next to you needed toilet paper. Or later on in the show, her previous boyfriend walks up to her and saves her in a pizza debacle in which she didn't get her slice. And I'm like, nobody's doing that. Nobody is being charming with each other anymore. You're lucky to get a date on an app with a decent individual. Nobody knows how to interact with each other anymore. This is not the 1980s in which people put themselves out there to meet other people. Everyone's hiding behind their phones. And if they do talk to you, it's like, I'll be really cute on text message. But then when I meet you, it's going to be so awkward that you would rather bleed out. I'm already really annoyed with the show because it's trying to be really incisive about modern life. And yet it can't get the basics correct. Okay, you're not meeting anybody in bars looking for toilet paper and nobody's helping you with your missing slice of pizza. Okay, that's not happening. Regardless, the guy with the lipstick and she decide that they're going to be friends and he walks her home. And that's the way the love story is launched. And this clinger never leaves her side. I was very annoyed by this guy, by the way. A lot of reviews I've listened to, they love the guy. They think he was a redeeming factor on the show. And I think in a lot of ways he is, because he's a counterpoint to Jessica's unbelievable selfishness. And quite frankly, he is the only one who has any common sense. So for that, we love Felix. That's his name. But Felix is they say full of red flags. And in the description of the show, they say Felix has all these red flags. Jessica walks into this relationship. She should have known better. But it's like, no, Felix should have known better. Okay? Because let me tell you what Jessica's doing in her spare time. Jessica is super, super angry that her ex decided to go with this super cute little influencer on Instagram. He met her, they lived in the same neighborhood, and those two really connected. Jessica is super angry about that. And I mean, I would be too. I'm not saying that she should have just waltzed into life and not ever been offended that he dropped her ass and then picked up this super little hot Instagram chick. I get the annoyance. But she then decides in the weirdest, quirkiest, most unrelatable thing I've ever seen. And this is a person who just must live and breathe with their phone, because the way she chooses to deal with this is to create a private social media account in which she makes short videos of her reacting to the content on her ex's new girlfriend's profile. So the new girlfriend will post something, and then Jessica will make a video in which she's ripping Wendy apart, being like, well, you see, Wendy, the reason, da-da-da. And she just has a whole diary talking to Wendy about how annoyed she is about what Wendy does, how annoyed she is about the ex, how Wendy doesn't understand anything. And so she's got 500 videos because she posts something every day. She will excuse herself from scenarios oh, I'm at dinner with friends, but I need to go make a video to Wendy. I mean, that is unrelatable behavior. How many of you have a private social media diary in which you are scathingly going after your ex's new girlfriend and would excuse yourself from life to do it? I mean, she'll do it in public bathroom stalls. She's over there excuse me, new boyfriend, I got to go to the bathroom. But then she's making videos in there and people can hear her. I'm just is that typical behavior? I don't know. I'm not a New Yorker. Is that what people in New York are doing who decide to go to London? I don't know. I think what's also disturbing is that this whole show is loosely autobiographical about Lena Dunham's experience in London, because of course she couldn't make any kind of content, make any kind of show, nothing that has to do with anybody other than herself. So she obviously has to work out all of her problems by making shows and writing really weird memoirs. And so maybe for her, maybe the way she does deal with things is to make videos. I mean, in some context, I can almost believe it. Anyway, the Jessica character is just very annoying because that's the kind of stuff she's up to. And then she'll just do things that are just wild, crazy. How in the world have you been allowed in polite society, Jessica? Because she gets invited to her boss's house for a dinner party. Now, unbeknownst to her, the boss and his wife are definitely cokeheads. But she doesn't know that. So she has no reason to believe that the wild behavior she's going to exhibit at the dinner table would be an acceptable way to act in front of these people. As far as she knows, this is going to be a classy situation. She sits down at the dinner table, okay, after telling Felix we need to act like we have some decency, because she brings Felix as her date. She gives him this big pep talk, we got to act right around these people, okay, we got to act right. And then she proceeds to tell her hostess at the dinner table about her UTI, how, she's got a lot of female problems down there, probably because she's sleeping so much with Felix. She goes on to discuss some strange different positions. It's I'm going to need you to not act to me like this is normal dinner conversation. The whole time you're waiting for the hostess to be okay, that's enough. Okay, wait. Can we change the subject? But no, she leans into it to such an extent that at one point, I think the hostess is going to try to have a sexual thing with Jessica because she's so into what Jessica's talking about and so wanting to be her answer and being let's go to the bathroom together. And the whole reason is because she wants to snort coke. But at no point are you expecting that to be the outcome, because you and I are normal. And this show is flush with abnormality to the highest level. There is not one normal person who crosses the screen. And I mean not one. Not one person. Everybody is literally too much in this show. And, a person can be well, it's satire. I don't know if it is. Some of the side characters, like her mom, who, interestingly, is played by Rita Wilson. Wasn't I just saying, what has Rita Wilson ever been in? Well, Rita Wilson is in this show, playing her bohemian, wild mom who, lets anything go. And a bunch of the side characters in the show are really wild, and I think you're supposed to kind of get a chuckle out of them. But the thing is, they're not actually any weirder than Jessica is or Felix is. So it's like, why am I supposed to laugh at them and think that they're like this funny little commentary on the modern American existence? But I'm not supposed to laugh at Jessica, who is, if anything, weirder than anybody in her family? Like, this is some of the stuff that's going on in her family. When the show opens, Jessica is living at home with her grandmother, her mother, her sister, and her sister's kid. All of these women have lost their husbands, and Jessica is obviously not dating her ex anymore, so she's also in this big female mix-up. The way they just like openly talk, and like they all talk about sex all the time, all these women, but not in a typical like the way you can talk about that with your mom. The way these women choose to discuss sex is so wild to me. And it's not because I'm, a pearl clutcher or we can't talk about sex. Please. Of course we can. But the way they're raunchy, nasty, like pornographic about it. And I'm just like, the vibe is not ringing true to me here. And I just feel like, Lena Dunham, maybe in your house where you were diddling your little sister, this kind of behavior was on par with reality. But for the rest of the audiences, like, have you talked to anybody else in your life since leaving your family? Do you know that's not normal? And like, just the way that it's just so like gritty and nasty. Meanwhile, her sister, Jessica's sister, who's played by Lena Dunham in the show, has been confined to bed because she's so depressed because her husband left her so he could be in a polyamorous relationship with a male and a female, both whom are named Corey. It's like those kind of storylines we're kind of supposed to laugh at because it's just so outrageous and so funny. But then we pan back to Jessica and she's in the bathroom in a public stall making a video to her ex's new lover. I mean, that's not any less weird. But we're not supposed to laugh at Jessica. Right? And so like the whole show goes on, 10 episodes long, and you're just like, what in the world? There's tons of nasty sex, because we really have to, shatter glass ceilings and have lots of sex scenes with bigger girls, so we're like getting in a lot of nasty sex and a lot of extended scenes that I just think, where was the editor? Were you guys like, we got to clock this episode in at 45 minutes. So let's make Jessica sing for a really long time, even though she can't sing. I mean, it was just egregious. I mean, I called my brother. My brother watches everything. He knows all the things. I got to have him on the show, honestly. He's so funny and brilliant and wonderful. And I called him and I was like, brother, have you seen this new show of Lena Dunham? And he's like, no, but I will. And I was like, when you finish, I need you to set aside 4 hours because we need to discuss. All of these characters are so over the top. I just don't know who this show was supposed to be for. I have no idea. And, I really want to tell you some other things that happened, but if you are going to watch the show, I don't want to wreck it for you. I'm just letting you know right now. If you watch this show, I'm going to need you to comment below. I've got to talk to some people about this, and nobody I know has seen this show. And I just need to, like, am I the crazy one? Because this show was insane. Every single character was the weirdest person you could ever have hoped to meet. But in this show, they're all like that. In life, you might meet like one person that's this wild and be like, wow, that was a moment to remember. In this show, the moment to remember would be the one normal person you know. Somebody who's like faithful to their spouse, takes care of their kids, is working hard to put them in a private school, bringing their lunch to work, And after watching this show, you're just like, I'm so glad my life is mundane and normal. Because if my life was this wild, crazy, I don't know, like I'm in a relationship, we say we're committed, but both of us are kind of like goofing off with other people on the side, Jessica and Felix. It's like, nobody has any moral boundaries in this show. Nobody has any like hardcore, like this, you can't cross this boundary. Everyone's kind of like loosey-goosey, like, I don't know. Well, I wanted to do it and it made me feel good. Oh, okay. Well, if it made you feel good, I guess I have to be okay with it. It's like, this is a world you don't want to live in. If this is the trajectory of the world, if Lena Dunham has just like shown us what it is to be alive in this world in a environment where there's no moral boundaries and you really don't get to be mad about anything that happens because that's just life and they just wanted to and it made them happy, so you had to say yes. Like, I don't want any part of this. And I also don't feel like I'm so naive that I've like never been anywhere or done nothing, and so like the whole world's living like this, but I don't know it. I mean, this is objectively the craziest show I've ever seen. In that it's trying to make me believe that this is life, that this is relatable, that this is like a searing description of what it is to be, a millennial in her 30s. I'm a millennial in my 30s. I don't even know what y'all are talking about. Okay, I've talked long enough about that show. I'm sorry I went on so long. But please watch it. We need to discuss. I'm serious. We've got to talk about it. Honestly, I feel like if I had Facebook, I'd open a Facebook group so that we could all hold each other and be like, what did we just witness? Anyway, okay, let's continue on. We got a lot of things to talk about. Speaking of love stories that just don't make sense, let's talk about Macron. Now, we've talked about this many times on this channel, as you know. And of course, all of this reporting, which wasn't necessarily new, but was brought to a much wider audience by Candace Owens. And she really detailed this story and made it, blew it up. And now everybody's talking about it all the time. Was the fact that Brigitte Macron was born a man, did groom his young student, and then eventually married his young student, who is now the president of France. And this Brigitte wants everyone to believe that she was a woman all along. But it's pretty hard to believe that when there's so much evidence to the contrary. And recently, in a very shocking report, and this is some weeks old, I think it's 2 or 3 weeks old, Candace Owens, who, all she was doing was telling a story and showing us some evidence to back up that story. She was in the crosshairs because Macron had come over and he talked to Trump. And he says to Trump, I am not going to do any deals with you about Ukraine unless you get Candace Owens to stop talking about my wife. As though Candace Owens was the only person talking about it. Now, she was the person that blew the story up. But there are journalists who had already been taken to court for saying the same things that Candace was saying, who, by the way, just recently had all charges lifted from them. The world's a beautiful place. So Candace has nothing to fear because this joker can't come after her for having an opinion. There's literally nothing he can do about it. But Brigitte's freaking out. She's wanting to take everybody to court. She says she can't function. And we're watching her treat her husband as though he is the reason why all of this is happening to her. To him, I don't even know which pronouns to use for this character. But we've seen multiple times where, we saw, of course, we all remember when she slapped him and beat him right before the doors opened. So we know it's an abusive relationship. But now she's even taking that coldness out on him in public whenever they're seen places. Now, I saw the other day, this story was, they were really trying to make this one story go viral and it just wasn't happening, where Brigitte's coming down some stairs and the president offers his hand and she acknowledges him but doesn't take his hand. And there was all these people saying, oh, look at the way she spurned him. Look, look, look. But it was more like she didn't want to let go of the handrail because she has high heels on and doesn't want to fall down the stairs. And so Brigitte declines his hand, but not in a nasty way. They made eye contact. She smiled and she just kept going down the stairs. Okay. To me, I was like, you guys, please. This is what I hate. You know I hate this. We don't make a big deal about stories that have nothing to do with anything, but you're trying to push it into this little round circle. That's a square peg, friend. That does not fit there. That person was not angry at her husband. She's just trying to get down the stairs without falling. Okay. But then I saw another story where they're walking along. They're in England. They're visiting. President Macron, by the way, needs to cool it on his obvious flirtation with the princess. She is not reciprocating, but the way that guy's winking at her and, wanting to be all up in her business, I'm just like, dude, you got enough issues on your own hands. Stop trying to mess with somebody else's wife. But that's neither here nor there. Macron's seen walking along with Brigitte, and he keeps trying to grab her hand, and she is definitely holding it away from him. She does not want him to touch her. And I'm like, girl, man, you need to figure yourself out, because everybody talking about your life choices, which are so bad and so sloppy, and you being mad at your young husband as though this is his fault in any way. You groomed him when he was 14. If anybody has a bone to pick with anybody here, it's him with you for what you did to him. Okay, so enough of this already, sulking, hitting him on planes, acting like my life is falling apart because of you, and telling your husband to go to America, meet with Donald Trump, and tell him that he's got to somehow get Candace Owens to stop her right of free speech. Get the hell out of here. You crazy? President Macron literally said to President Trump, I will not make any deals with you about Ukraine unless you get Candace Owens to stop talking about my wife. What? How are you so pathetic and so fragile that you're going to let somebody's podcast in another country determine whether you decide to be happy that day or not? You're the one who decided that you want to have an affair with a 14-year-old. How is that Candace Owens' problem? You're the one that is a nasty, disgusting, filthy pervert who continues to leave clues everywhere so that journalists can pick up on that and be like, hey, did you know that Macron wants to replace the steeple with an erect penis? I mean, like, all kinds of crazy stuff that Brigitte has been into. And now she's mad that somebody's, like, collected the pieces and been like, that person might be a sicko. But that's our fault for noticing. It's not your fault for being a disgusting pervert. It's our fault for noticing. Get out of here, please. Let's talk about other people who are in abusive relationships. Denise Richards, what is going on with you? I mean, seriously, girl. She recently just got a restraining order against her husband, who she now says has been beating her low these many years. I think that there's plenty of evidence that he is really abusive. But she just recently released a picture of this black eye that he gave her. I think the black eye was actually in 2022. But anyway, she's saying, I got to get out. I got to get away from him. I'm done with him. He's been hurting me. And then there's other pictures of her at events where she's got bruises all up and down her arms, but she had forgotten to cover those with makeup. I find that really interesting for one of two reasons. How do you forget to cover up abused bruises? Unless it's so frequent that it's just like you're used to seeing yourself with bruises, so it almost like you don't even think about, oh, I need to make sure I cover that up. Or it was a cry for help, like, look, he's abusing me. Because I can't imagine going to a public event and nobody being like, oh, wait. There's a lot of bruises on your arm. Do you want us to cover those? Not even if those people knew that you were in an abusive relationship, just like, it's unsightly to have an arm covered with bruises. But she chose not to cover them. So why? Was it just I'm so used to being bruised that I almost know no better? Or I want someone to help me? I don't know. But she says that every time she would go to him and be like, I'm done, I can't, I'm over it. He'd cry and carry on, be like, I'll do better. Okay, well, she bought that. But, you know, when somebody gives you a black eye of that magnitude, it's kind of hard to imagine that this person loves you, right? But what's worse is he has been caught on camera because, you know, she's one of those characters on one of those housewives shows. And I think it was in season 7 where I've seen a clip of him being really ugly to her and her whispering, be quiet, the cameras are on us, please don't say anything. They're talking under their breath to each other, and he tells her that if she doesn't shut up, he's going to crush her effing hand.
Baby, don't say a word. We're on the camera. Don't say a word.
Don't tell me what to say. I'm going to crush your hand. Solve it.
What? And this is in full view of the camera, so you can only imagine what he was doing in the background. Anyway, he's filed for divorce. The date of the dissolution of their marriage was July 4th, and I suppose that's when there was this super explosive situation happening where, like, both of them are like, this is untenable. Anyway, she's got a restraining order. We'll watch how this story pans out. But I'm like, Denise Richards, what's happening? You and your daughter both have OnlyFans now. You're getting black eyes from your abusive husband. Like, I want a different trajectory for you. I can't think of anything that I ever remember Denise Richards being in when I was a kid, except for I think there was a Friends episode in which she is their, like, hot cousin, and she comes to stay, and all the guys are, like, salivating over her. So that was kind of a funny episode, but that's literally the only thing I remember her ever being in. And I know that she was, like, a big person in the 90s. I don't have a lot that I remember her being in, but I don't care. Nobody needs to go around being beaten on by their husband. And they also don't need to be on OnlyFans. So, you know, everything's looking terrible for Denise. I hope things get better for her. Okay, let's talk about Britney Spears, shall we? She has told us that she is adopting a baby. Britney Spears, my God. The way this girl needs help. I know that none of us wanted her to be in the conservatorship, but my girl needs to have someone telling her what to do. Constantly posting her little weird dance videos where she stares demonically into the cameras. I don't get it. You guys, I also don't even know if I think that's even Britney Spears. I know this is conspiratorial, but why does she look so different? Her eyes look different, but also can we talk about her teeth? Her teeth are looking bad. She's got this, like, gap between her teeth, and her teeth are all kind of, like, splayed out. And I'm not being mean. I just feel like her teeth looked different before, and now her eyes and her teeth look weird. And I don't know if this is just like she's not wearing her retainer. I don't know if this is the crazy eye because of the drugs, probably. She keeps going on these rants that she's not making any sense. So she's dancing and staring into the camera with her weird teeth and weird eyes. And now she's coupling those rants with long, weird, dramatic Instagram posts. And this post, she said that she had recently adopted this baby girl, but the middle name of the baby was London. And you know how she likes to pretend she has a British accent? So anyway, she says she's adopted this baby girl, and it's just the most rambling post. I don't understand what's happening with her, because in the background of this other video, you can see she's got like a little baby bouncer thing. But we know she has a baby doll she carries around. Like, she does carry around a baby doll everywhere she goes. And you'll see her carrying it. You'll sometimes see her bodyguard carrying the baby doll, but she can't go anywhere without the baby doll because she also thinks that she may be 5. When I tell you that her mental state is deteriorating, it's hard to know if it really is or this is just like her play acting, but I really think that she's not well. Because I can't imagine anybody wanting to present themselves like this. And of course, we remember recently when she was with her son, and they've had a really tumultuous and bad relationship, but she's kind of trying to fix this relationship she's had with her son, and he came over and he's playing piano, and then she's like freaking out and saying he's a genius and all this. And just the way she interacts with him is just an odd way to be as a mother. All of us would praise our kids if we think that they're exhibiting skills and things, but she's just over the top and so silly and so dramatic and so wild and out of control. I mean, I can understand why her sons are like, we need a break from mom, because the level of energy that she brings to a situation is like overwhelming. She's an overwhelming person. No questions about it. So the reality is she does not have a new baby. She did not adopt a new baby. In what world would they let her adopt a baby anyway? She can't even take care of herself. But she's got that little baby doll. But so she says, I was just having fun on Instagram. I don't really have a kid or whatever. Actually, I don't even think she came out and said it. I just think sources have said Britney doesn't have a baby. Okay, so don't get all worked up about it. You know, you people who are waiting to, you legitimate people out there who are waiting to adopt a baby, don't worry, she didn't really get one. She's just saying that for fun, I guess. But somebody needs to help Britney. Some people who are legitimately about to have a baby, that would be Pete Davidson and his really beautiful girlfriend, Elsie Hewitt. Now, I don't care about the fact they're having a baby. I mean, good for them. But what I'm concerned and confused and confounded about is Pete Davidson's ability to get these really hot girls. What and how? I mean, have you ever seen somebody so objectively unattractive? I mean, he's not like the worst person I've ever seen, and I don't mean to reduce somebody to their looks. I guess I'm just saying, I don't think he's the funniest person I've ever seen on SNL. I think he's kind of a goofball. I've never seen one skit where like, that was made because Pete Davidson was so funny. I know this making me sound really shallow, but I also don't feel like his personality from what we've seen, and maybe he's got a whole like secondary personality that he only pulls out for the hot girls. Maybe that's why I don't know what it is, but I don't understand how he has managed to have such a string of beautiful girlfriends. And I know I'm not the only one who's asked this question. And now he's managed to impregnate one of these people. How? Who is this person? Like, he needs to be giving a masterclass to guys who like want girlfriends. As we were saying earlier in the top of the show, we have a real crisis where all the guys are like, we're all the good girls, and all the girls are like, we're all the nice guys. Well, apparently Pete Davidson has cracked the code on how to get any girl you want, you know, and it's irrespective of how he looks. This skinny clown, this doofus, has never managed to get a hot girl to say no. I don't even think at this point, I'm like, are you doing some kind of a magic? Is there a magic spell involved? Is this beauty magic? I mean, I feel like something is crazy with this guy, that he cannot date an ugly woman. Not even a meh woman. Not even a like, you know, he has never even dated somebody who I think is on par with his looks. And he's always dating people who are like, just a 10 out of 10. And I don't know what he's bringing to the table. I don't get it. This is a person who dated Ariana Grande when she was cute, like really cute. This is a person who dated Kim Kardashian, who I don't necessarily find like crazy attractive just because her looks at this point are so stereotypically good looking. But a lot of people think she's really hot. He managed that. And now he's dating this Elsie Hewitt. I don't know who she is, but she's really pretty. Someone explain this to me. Seriously, in the comments, do you understand how this is happening? Again, everyone doesn't have to be like this physical stunner, okay? I'm not asking for that. But in the absence of physical stunningness, usually there's a fantastic personality behind it. We've never seen that. Okay, this is a person who was like, you saw him in a skit in SNL and you're like, oh, well, this is going to be a stupid skit. He's always breaking character. His lines were always lame. I can't think of anything Pete Davidson has ever been in. You watch him in interviews and you're all like, that guy is so charming. That guy is so charming. I love that. I love that. So, you know what? If anything, there's hope for the rest of us, okay? There's hope for the rest of us because Lena Dunham has told us that you can be a big girl with a super awkward personality and every guy on the street's going to stop for you just because they're charmed by your weirdness. And Pete Davidson's over there with a string of beautiful ex-girlfriends who he he break up with these people? You know? He decides he's ready to move on and he goes and gets a new girlfriend. I mean, like, I guess there's hope for everybody. All right. Because if Pete Davidson and Lena Dunham have managed to find people for themselves, not only in Lena's case in real life, but also she writes about it in fiction, I guess there's hope for all of us. Finally, I have just two last little things to talk about. Recently, Jennifer Love Hewitt was on the red carpet and she has not been seen, I think, for a while. And Jennifer Love Hewitt, I feel like, was a real heartthrob back in her day. Now, she has gained some weight. Noticeably, not like a Lena Dunham situation, but she has. And this is not where I'm trying to talk about everybody's weight. That's a point you have to know. But what I was really annoyed about in the comments of these videos was that everybody was like, she looks so great. I am so proud of her coming out like this and being like, and other people in the comments congratulating each other for being like really kind about Jennifer Love Hewitt. Like, I love how this comment section is so kind. Like, we all are right on the mark. You know, go you, you know, that dress really accentuates all your new curves. You look great, da 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 da. But it was a congratulation of each other for not being total dicks. And I'm like, you guys, you know, here's the thing. You don't get to compliment a person and then tell each other, I love how this comment section is so kind. Why is it being kind? You just said she looked amazing. Is it because you don't really think she looks amazing, but you decided to ignore the fact that she's gained a considerable amount of weight and you didn't mention it? But didn't you just mention it when you said, I love that we're being so kind? And I'm telling you, like, tons of people in this comment section on a bunch of these different videos, we're all talking about we're being so nice to her. Don't we love that for us, that we're such nice people, that we're, you know, and none of them saying why they meant that. Why you mean that is because she's considerably heavier, you know, and you're not that nice, okay? If you want to say she looks nice, say she looks nice and move on. And that is a strand I'm seeing a lot, in which people act like they have the moral high ground and then want you to notice they took the moral high ground. Take the moral high ground, okay? Enough of this. You don't get to pat yourself on the back for being a decent person. Just be a decent person and don't look for other people to acknowledge that. The internet is one of those places where it's like the CEO story, gratifying. And then you turn over to the Jennifer Love Hewitt story and everybody congratulating each other for not calling her fat. And it's like, you know what? I'm done. I'm done with all you people. What is this? Okay, my last story that I just want to talk about, and I don't even really have a generous commentary on this. I just want to talk about it. Megan, of course, as you know, has been sending out her overpriced rosé. And as you know, this is $30 a bottle. Now, I'm watching people do reviews about whether it's good or not. I don't know. I can't tell. I'm not a wine drinker, so you could give me good or bad. I might notice that the good didn't burn my stomach so bad. But other than that, like, I'm not a connoisseur. I don't know the things I ought to know about wine. But I'm actually okay with it because I just really don't like to drink alcohol. I don't care if you want to drink alcohol. I just never developed a taste for it. It's just not my vice. Food, though. Cheese. Oh my gosh, if only I didn't love it so much. Anyway, everyone's talking about the wine and everything, and I can't tell. I don't understand, because I've heard people will drink it and they're like, interesting, very tropical. But I'm like, is that good? I don't know. Like, what do I know? I would really rather just talk to you about the things I can talk to you about, and that is what the hell with this labeling. I'm serious, you guys. I am so annoyed by how lazy the marketing is for As Ever. I've talked about it before and I'll keep talking about it. All right. I don't like the labels. They look like something you could make on a home printer. Okay. I hate them. They're so boring and bland. And I just want to show you a lineup of all the different celebrity rosé. Look at these bottles. Look at these labels. Look at the perfection of so many of these other labels. And then over here we have your Dollar General rosé. This label is so uninviting. For somebody who says they care so much about packaging, and I think that's the reason I'm just astounded that this is what she ultimately came to the conclusion was what she wanted to do. A bright white label with a gold border and harsh black lettering. And just, it's sparse with that really stupid little crest with the birds and the palm tree that looks like something that you could have made on an old program on a computer. Like, everything about that label is trash. There's nothing that makes you be like, like sometimes you will gravitate towards things just because they're beautiful. Obviously, that's a human tendency. And when I'm looking at 2 bottles of rosé and I don't know the difference, and it could be my overwhelming ignorance, I'm probably going to choose the bottle that looks visually more appealing first. Especially when I'm like, I have no idea if Megan's rosé is good, but if Megan had done like a killer job with the packaging, like, you feast your eyes first on that. And since obviously she's not too concerned about, what she's hawking with her liquid jam and her dry biscuits, I mean, I don't have any hope that wine is any good. Have any of y'all had any of it? Can you tell me, just tell me the words good or bad. Don't tell me tropical and interesting. I don't understand that. Is it good or is it bad? That's what I need to know. Okay? I don't know any other words but good and bad. I can tell you what I don't like. It's that label. And I don't like it because next to so many other celebrity wines, you can see what other people are doing. So it's not like we're in a vacuum of ignorance over here. We have comparisons. Okay? And the comparisons are not good. I'm embarrassed that she is working around and with so many people who could have helped her do better. And this is ultimately what they landed on. The rush job of this makes me believe that the wine inside the bottle is no good. Anyway, all right. Well, I must get on with the day. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with me. I hope you have a great weekend. I will see you on Monday for more of our book on Anna Wintour. It's getting really good. I'll talk to you soon. Bye.